This morning's prayer is a way of arriving here fully together, and it's by my colleague Erica Hewitt, and I'm going to need your help with this. Let us call each other to this time and place as we seek the ground of our being. When invited, please respond, "I am arriving. Together we arrive." Let's try that. I am arriving. Together we arrive. We are here in body, and yet we are still arriving. When we left our homes this morning, we left to-do lists, coffee, household tasks, family members, and pets. All of these await our return. I am arriving. Together we arrive. Some of us don't remember the last time we had a quiet moment to ourselves, and yet we have chosen to be here together to tend to our souls and to one another. I am arriving. Together we arrive. In the days since we've last met, some of us have been changed, while others are inviting change to take place within them. Some of us have experienced loss. We've lost things, lost opportunities, or even people dear to us. I am arriving. Together we arrive. Some of us are fighting battles we can't even speak about. Others feel happy enough that we could have flown here with our own arms. We arrive not knowing quite what to expect, but finding comfort in that which is familiar. I am arriving. Together we arrive. Our arriving will not happen all at once. As we each settle in, we will find our way into togetherness, and in our own time, arrive. I am arriving. Together we arrive. Amen. Our reading this morning is by Dana Worsnop. Often people say that they love coming to a place with so many like-minded people. I know just what they are getting at, and I know that they aren't getting it quite right. I don't want to be with a bunch of people who think just like me. I want to be in a beloved community where I don't have to think like everyone else to be loved, to be eligible for salvation. I want to be with people who value compassion, justice, love, and truth, though they have different thoughts and opinions about all sorts of things. I want to be with independent-minded people of good heart. I want to be with people who have many names and no name at all for God. I want to be with people who see in me goodness and dignity, who also see my failings and my foibles, and who still love me. I want to be with people who feel their interconnection with all existence and let it guide their footfalls upon the earth. I want to be with people who see life as a paradox and don't always rush to resolve it. I want to be with people who are willing to walk the tightrope that is life and who will hold my hand as I walk mine. I want to be with people who let church call them in a different way of being in the world. I want to be with people who support, encourage, and even challenge each other to higher and more ethical living. I want to be with people who inspire one another to follow the call of the Spirit. I want to be with people who covenant to be honest, engaged, and kind, who strive to keep their promises and hold me to the promises I make. I want to be with people who give of themselves, who share their hearts and minds and gifts. I want to be with people who know that human community is often warm and generous, sometimes challenging, and almost always a grand adventure. In short, I want to be with people like you. Last month, as part of our Springtime Spirituality series, I led a two-part workshop called Mapping Our Spiritual Journeys. And it involved long scrolls of paper and lots of colored markers. It involved deep introspection and deep sharing among the participants. Here's how I opened up the workshop on the first day. Some of you might be here to map your spiritual journey, but still be kind of fuzzy about what spirituality is. That's okay. It's a kind of fuzzy topic. I really like this explanation from a Unitarian Universalist resource about everyday spirituality. We feel spiritual when we feel a deep connection with something greater than ourselves, with the natural world, with those who have gone before us, with a creative spirit, with God. Spiritual moments like this, direct experience of transcending mystery and wonder, are an important source of religious learning for Unitarian Universalists. Sometimes those moments catch us by surprise. A sunset takes our breath away. We share a moment of connection with a stranger. We discover a creative insight. In her poem, Fire, Judy Brown writes, "What makes a fire burn is the space between the logs, a breathing space." One of the ways to nurture spirituality is to allow space between the logs of our lives, taking time to pause and notice, rather than rushing from one must-do to the next. Today, I am assuming that we all come from different spiritual backgrounds, and that some of us still feel connected to the religious traditions of our childhoods, and some do not. I am not assuming that we all mean exactly the same thing when we use the word spiritual, or even journey. But I am assuming that just by taking some time out of our regularly scheduled lives to talk about spirituality and to draw about spirituality and to think about spirituality, we are creating those spaces between the logs which nourish our spirits and spiritual lives. I asked the class not to get too bogged down with that word spirituality as we did our mapping. Instead, I offered guiding questions that asked them to reflect deeply on their lives and to pull out from the reservoir of their memories, life events, people, stories, emotions, and feelings that, taken all together, created a lifetime, created a journey. And by the end of the second day, I think everyone there agreed that those journeys were, without a doubt, spiritual journeys. This morning, I want to offer you all a glimpse at the guiding questions of the workshop. Maybe you will be inspired to go home and dig out your colored pencils. Maybe just thinking about them will be a breathing space, a space between the logs of your living. Okay, now at the beginning of the class, I think I shocked all of the participants by asking them to write down at the left edge of their paper the year of their birth, and then at the right edge of their paper to write down the date of their death. Approximately. A guesstimate. I probably could have just ended the workshop there. It was such a significant exercise to do, to think about, wow, we're all going to die. And we're naming that out loud. We are mortal. Oh my God. To think about How much time do I think I have left? Somehow giving ourselves a death date, mapping our lives up until today, and then seeing that blank space at the end of the paper. The rest of our days seemed more precious. Number 1, life has a beginning, an end, and we are somewhere in between. The rest of the workshop focused on a set of guiding questions that asked participants to map onto their line significant events, people, and ideas. But it was not a linear exercise. I didn't say, what was life like when you were 10? And what did you believe at 20 and 60? Instead, with each question, we kept going back over our maps, adding layers and drawing connections and interlacing memories. Number 2, life events happen. Where have significant things happened to you? People spoke of travels and deaths and family events. They talked about violence and illness and world events. We talked about our life through the lens of things happening to us. Number 3, all life is meeting others. Who are the 3 or 4 people who have had the greatest impact on your life, and why? People named teachers and family members and friends. Some people were in their lives for a long time, and some just for a short while. They made a strong impact. After giving them some time to add influential people to their maps, I asked a few follow-up questions. I wonder if you've ever told these people how big an impact they've had on you. And could it be that if there are people who have so influenced us, that we could be that impactful to someone else? If someone else in our lives right now was mapping their journey, would we be on it somewhere? We might be, and we might never know. Number 4, experiences shape religious faith. What are 2 or 3 experiences in your life that have shaped you, and why are they important to you? Here we took up life experiences again, but this time thinking about how experiences have shaped us. Slightly different than what happened to us. How have experiences shaped us? And did we have some control over how we reacted or grew from or made meaning out of these events? Number 5, we live in community. Which communities, religious or not, have had a lasting influence on your development? People listed their families and elementary schools, Girl Scout troops, colleges and colleagues, music scenes, and communities drawn together by common interests or common identities. You might not be surprised to learn that the UU Meeting House of Provincetown was mapped onto several scrolls during that workshop. Number 6, we are choosing creatures. Think of the important decisions in your life and discuss what they meant to you, how they were made, and the result. Here we looked at our own agency and authority. These aren't things that happened to us. These are choices we made, ways we shaped our own lives. We talked about how in a choose-your-own-adventure book, you can make one choice and see how it plays out. But then you can go back and make the other choice and see how that one would have gone. But in life, you can't do that. We talked about how some of our life choices we make and never look back on. And some we return to over and over again, wondering, what if? Number 7, some of our experiences we call religious. think of 2 or 3 experiences that were turning points for your faith life. People shared experiences in churches, in synagogues, at Buddhist monasteries, in nature, and with other people. We talked about music and sunsets and pilgrimages. We talked about the beliefs and experiences of our parents, about holidays, about faith. I was at a colleague's ordination yesterday, and the minister giving the sermon said that Unitarian Universalism is a big tent faith, and we fit a lot of different beliefs under that big top. And she said that we make some sacrifices to be part of a big tent faith like ours, in that what we hear coming from the pulpit and from our fellow parishioners won't always be what we ourselves believe. And that is a sacrifice that we make, to take part in a faith that says that we need not think alike to love alike. But sharing our different religious experiences during the mapping class, I felt that big tent, and it was a gift. Listening to the ways that others had experienced the holy only deepened my own appreciation for this mystical universe and my fellow journeyers. Number 8, life is made of joy and sorrow. List a few of the happiest and saddest experiences of your life. The sharing here was deep and tender. I feel so honored to be let in on these highs and lows of human experience. We all felt closer to one another after that. And finally, number 9, values. Reflect on your life and figure out what values have guided you. And right now I want to turn the pulpit over to Kate Wallace-Rogers, who participated in the spiritual mapping workshop, to share just a few of her insights from her journey.
Thanks, Kate. Thank you all. I created this. I don't know what you might be able to see or not, but you may notice that Kate also suggested perhaps we would do a spiral. And so I started my birth at April 3rd, 1962, way over here, and then I started spiraling in. And Kate was surprised. She said, "Oh, well, I thought maybe you'd be born in the middle and then spiral out." But I feel like I'm spiraling in, that I'm getting closer and closer to my center. That's what I'm sort of aiming for. And then this, I was 55 when, you are here, that's me at 55 when I was doing it, but now I'm 56, so I'm a little further along. But a great friend once told me that she was going to live till 110, and so that she wouldn't reach middle age till 55, and I really like that idea. And since my mother died at 59, I've always been so fearful of this time in my life that, I would die too, and yet the love part of me says 110. So the day after Christmas, maybe I'll get a lot of presents, we'll all have a great celebration, and then I'll be done. Anyway, so I wanted to share a few things that I've learned at different intervals. At 15, I got my first realish job at a squash club that I ended up working at for 7 more years. And there, through the sport, I learned discipline, fitness, confidence, and power. At 23, I lost my mother, my grandmother, the woman who took care of me as a child, my favorite college professor, and my favorite high school teacher. So it was a difficult interval, but it taught me so much about carpe diem, patience, feeling the support and the love of all the people that supported me after my mother was gone. And as Amy said earlier, how important it is to express the love each day to the people that we love. My first teaching job taught me to take risks, to model behavior that I wanted to see in my students, how to have fun with my colleagues, and to be creative in my teaching. My trip around the world, I think maybe it's over here, I went around the world with my brother, so I understand a little bit about what Karen was saying. Taught me how small I am, and I can only travel the smallest thread in my life, even if it seems like going around the world sounds like a big thing. I appreciate how privileged we are, how overprivileged we are in this country, and how little materialistically people need to survive. I moved to suburbia after I got married, and I never thought of living there, as I grew up in New York City. And there I learned to value my independence, embrace my family quirks. That's where I embraced my artistic sensibilities and really launched into my poetry and my ability to parent creatively. Finally, moving to Cape Cod and coming out taught me to be true to myself, to choose love over fear, to have faith, to be patient with my children and their process. And as my friend says, there's no need to spoil the ending, but everything's going to be okay. Thanks.
Thank you. And I'll just end with a short reflection from another workshop participant, Ellen Anthony, who, along with Marty Hassel, is representing us this morning at a sister UU church in Duxbury, Massachusetts. I hope they made it over the bridge with that construction. The First Parish in Duxbury is taking up a collection for us this morning to help us with our flood recovery costs. So thank you, First Parish Duxbury. But Ellen sent these words: to be in a room where people are quiet, rare. To be in a room with people pausing to notice how we spent our time on earth, tender. To be with people searching, tracing the touch of spirit in our lives, then speaking the story of that. Oh. Sometimes one person's experience sparked a connection inside us. How completely different our journeys are, and yet how similar. Then I went home and took a crack at painting my journey, learned more. The darkest dips catapulted me into whole new belief systems. I saw repeating rhythms emerge, but always forward, all of it contributing to the whole. Good thing I landed in the holder of the whole, Unitarian Universalism. I know that I am so glad that all of our journeys have brought us together here under the big top. I look out and I see map upon map, overlaying and interconnected, like a map of the night sky, one constellation connecting to another, and it's beautiful. Amen, and blessed be.